Very good morning. Thanks, Peter. Thanks for the intro. I think previously just to get started, my name is Abhishek. I am the product and I lead product and technology at Phyken. At Phyken, we are actually fractionalizing real-world assets, very focused on solar. So this presentation is going to be a bit of intro and at the same time a bit of demo as well. Just to get started, what I can do is, since I'm going to be also showing how do we fractionalize using some of the palettes, so I would just go ahead and start the our local blockchain. Yeah. So yeah, perfect. Let the blockchain be running, let it produce some blocks, and then we can kind of show how exactly we are using some of the palettes, and then we are going around. So yeah. Okay, perfect. What is tokenization? We already know that most of the things are moving towards digitalization, and in comes the blockchain, and then there's more things that we can actually put it on blockchain for more traceability and auditability of the assets, right? So tokenization is basically issuing of the digital image or digital thing where it is unique and anonymous on the basis of who is going to be. So yeah, basically converting physical or any of the assets into token gives more, like I said, more auditability and transparency on the network. Okay, so like I said, we also do fractionalization to get, I think if you were in the previous conversation, previous presenter were actually doing 100 ideas on Polkadot, and he actually validated one of our ideas where he was actually fractionalizing a song that was minted. In our case, we are essentially going to be fractionalizing Solar. And to start with, just so to reiterate on it, fractionalization is actually dividing one of the assets into multiple assets, more specifically a non-fungible asset into fungible assets, so that these assets can be traded, and then these assets can be, in long term, you can also, borrow money on top of it. So yeah, why do we? This allows a lot of investors to jump in. In our case, especially, you can see setting up a solar farm is quite expensive and it's a capital intensive. So a lot of the retail investors like us and you guys, is the entry to the system is quite high. The ticket size is quite high, so it's very hard for individuals to invest. So it's always better that we onboard to provide more liquidity, and we also see the trend of going towards renewables, and the government is also pushing a lot of renewable stuff. So we need a lot of the investments coming from the retailers per se. So this is where the fractionalization helps, where we can fractionalize any of the assets and then make it as small as possible, so that the ticket size is smaller, so a lot of the people can actually get in. As you can see, you can see an investor, obviously our Bob is always there, and he has a hard time getting the investors because he wants to expand his solar, and thereby we kind of collateralize and then issue 1 million fractions of it, meaning he's trying to raise $1 million, and each of these fractions are going to be like $1 now. So somebody somebody like a retail investor can actually buy in $1 or $5 or a $10 worth of assets based on their risk portfolio. So why should we fractionalize, right? That's a good question to start with. So first thing is it increases the accessibility. Like a lot of the investors have, retail investors have different theses. Some of them have, I would want to invest in renewables at the same time. I would want to have investments into songs. Recently, I also heard that people are fractionalizing violin on already regular on the Web2 world, because violins are quite expensive. So this kind of gives access to like a lot of these individuals to diversify the portfolio. So once they have, it kind of makes them feel like, okay, I am invested in multiple of these things, and it's helping their investments grow. And obviously, when we fractionalize, it also provides with the liquidity. Now that there is more of liquidity out in the market, a lot of the retailers can jump in and then invest into it. So and the next one is risk mitigation. Like we said, retail investors do want to cut down what sort of risk they would take on investing in the assets, especially given solar as investment. $1 million in one of the assets is quite risky for a lot of the people. So if they can invest into the fractionals, then it's going to be much more easier for them managing their risk portfolio. Innovation is one thing where once we fractionalize, we can build various products on top of it, where it helps the users to basically build some sort of SPVs and then sell those SPVs as a product, and then a lot of the users can invest into it. So yeah, what are we doing at Phyken, right? So like I already explained, imagine there is a established solar farm, and they are looking for more liquidity, and we onboard the asset, and then we fractionalize these assets. So in this case, Alice wants to contribute. Alice is a person who has a thesis of investing into renewables because she believes that world needs to be more sustainable, and her investments or her money makes. She wants to showcase that her money has to make some noise towards what she is believing in. So that's where she comes in. So but for her, like I said, the barrier, the entry to these sorts of investments are quite high. So it is very difficult for us, for her to like invest into this. So, but once we fractionalize this, it gets easy for Alice to actually jump in and then buy one of these assets, because now the cost to entry to barrier is quite low. So this is what we are doing at Phyken. Very specifically, we are starting with solar, but then we can go ahead with wind and hydro as well in the future. So yeah, this is what we do at Phyken. But yeah, let's get to some technical part where how are we doing it actually, right? So it's here I'm just going to go through an overview where I do not want to get too technical as well. But these are some of the important palettes that we are using is Pallet-NFTs and Pallet-NFT fractionalization. These palettes help us in minting the NFTs and fractionalization. We will see how exactly that is done. So yeah, just to get more closer look at what is Pallet-NFT, how do we work with it? So Pallet-NFT is like, obviously NFT is non-fungible token, and basically this palette helps you to deal with non-fungible items. So minting these NFTs. I think early on we had a Unique palette, Unique company come over and build one of their NFTs where they build the palette on their own to cater their business solution, which was really good. That kind of made a standardization or called for a standardization from the ecosystem where Parity stepped in, and then they reiterated a few things from the Unique, and they rolled out this Pallet-NFTs, where now it is also called NFT 2.0 on the Pallet side. So yeah, what are the goals? Why do we need this palette? The main goal for us is to create NFT collections. Obviously, right? We need that collections of solar farms or wind farms and so on and so forth. When we also need to mint and burn these assets, burn these NFTs. So per se, like, and obviously freeze and unfreeze these NFTs. We also want to transfer these NFTs in the future. At the same time, we also want to store these information on the NFT. So these are some of the goals that was thought through while building this palette. Yeah. So what are the high-level features that we look at when we look at Pallet-NFT? So the first one is collection creation. We do need certain set of collection based on what individual person or an individual asset is carrying as. And then what are the trading methods that we can also be doing? So the next one is obviously we will have to mint it on the blockchain. And then attribute management, we need swaps to transfer, make the swaps between NFTs and tokens. Once the asset is going to be delisted, obviously we would want to burn as well. So yeah, Pallet-NFT is fairly bit simple. It uses, it has like very few dependencies. First one is frame system, support. The probably major one is pallet balance. Oh, yeah, I think there is a mistake here that goes as Pallet-NFT. So yeah, so these are the dependencies that Pallet-NFT actually has. So let's look at what are the parameter types that we kind of need when we are setting up this Pallet-NFT, even if you are just doing the NFT part, right? So the first one is the features. The features has to be enabled. What is the duration, collection deposit, item deposit? So these are the value that user has to pay in terms of providing and storing these information on chain, right? And then, yeah, attribute deposit, and then deposit per byte. So what is the cost for storing these values as well? So yeah, so once we have these parameter types, we can go ahead and configure our runtime because we are, it's fairly simple where we would just give out all the types where we would want to define what is the network that is going to charge. Like for example, we have to define the collection ID, item ID, what sort of currency, the network currency, who can create and who can destroy or create as well. It's more towards the root side. We also have collection deposit, item deposit, where reserved for certain items, and metadata, a meta deposit base where funds must be transferred because, like I said, we need, since we are using the space at the blockchain, we also need to pay for the storage, right? So yeah, so we can also do, like you see, there are a lot of things that we can customize based on our requirements, our usage. Yeah, just to highlight, I think, features is something that there is a whole section towards it, which we can actually talk later on or on the side, because this is one of the important types that can be configured as well. So once we have configured this, the next thing is we'll have to go towards the fractionalization. So fractionalization palette is a fairly new and then very simple. Parity has come up with this very recently, where we had coordinated with them to help us, utilizing it, and we are the first ones who are going to be using Pallet-NFT as NFT fractionalization. So it's a fair bit of Pallet where it has mainly two things where users can fractionalize and unify, right? So once the fractionalization is done, basically those tokens are traded, and once the tokens are traded and comes back to the same user, you can unify them as well. So like I said, these are the two high-level features. The first one is fractionalize and unify. So the more interesting part comes in the dependency side, where like you see, Pallet Asset and Pallet-NFT work together on fractionalization, where underlying fractionalization, NFT fractionalization takes the asset, takes the NFT, locks in the NFT, and then mints equivalent asset. So a non-fungible token is locked in, and then fungible tokens are issued on network. So that's why we see Pallet Asset as a dependency here. So yeah, fairly simple. Where how do we define the types for it. So the first one is the fractionalization ID, and then the second is this. Few other things are the symbol and the names. So right now these are hard coded per se. I think the next upgrade or the next thing that we could do is where users can provide or the network can provide the name for or the symbols that fractionalizations can be represented. That I'll show you in the while showing the demo. So yeah. So yeah, again, coming back to the how do we configure in the runtime, right? So we have NFT collections, collection ID, NFT ID, what are the asset balance, the amount, the type of assets that we have to define the NFTs that we are going to be fractionalizing, and yeah, the symbol, like we mentioned earlier, these are the parameter types that we have already defined. So yeah, I didn't want to get into too technical aspects of it, but let's go through a quick demo. Earlier we started our own local blockchain. So in that case, let's try and see what's happening here. Apparently, my Brave doesn't want me to allow local host. So let me just do this. Yep, cool. So yeah, we have a couple of people, usual ones, and we will just go through the network. We see the network has already produced 163 blocks. So yeah, we just move to the developer side. We go to the extrinsics. In this case, we will take Alice. Alice is the one who's going to be minting the NFT. So when she mints, you can see a lot of the other functionalities that Pallet-NFT offers. And in our case, we would want to first give the ownership. So where we say she is the admin, she is the person who can mint these assets. So here we will say Alice is the admin. There's more. When you talk about configuration, there are in detail configuration where this is a byte type, but currently since Polkadot.js doesn't support, and there is a PR opened as well. So we can take if somebody is interested, they can contribute to make it very simple here. So these values actually, when you just clear this value, you see it's a positive integer at this point. So for now, we'll just set it as 0, and we say she's the issuer, so on and so forth, and we can just sign the transaction. Yeah. As you can see, the transaction has been signed, and now Alice has a right and authority to mint an NFT. So let's go ahead, use the functionality of minting, right? So yeah, since Polka.js actually goes through the network and then sees what is the collection ID and item ID, those are set default. It also increments based on what the network has already minted. So in this case, since we are starting out fresh, I think let's keep it at 0. And we can also say that Alice is the one who's going to pay for it. So yeah. Yeah, perfect. So as you can see here, we were able to mint an NFT. If we go towards the Explorer part, oh, yeah, I think I missed that. Yeah. So yeah, you can see here clearly that we were able to mint the NFT, and now Alice is the owner of it, right? So once we have the NFT, the next thing that we were supposed to do is fractionalization. In our case, anyone can upload any sort of information and claim that it could be true. I could be a person, say that I actually own this property. It makes no sense in the blockchain world, but it makes no sense in the real world, but it can make sense in the blockchain world. So we are building more towards how do we verify these assets. so on and so forth as well. So once these assets are verified, we onboard these assets. Essentially, the verifier actually mints the NFT in this case. And later on, user gets to fractionalize based on how much of fractions he or she wants to like start out with. So in this case, let's go and fractionalize. Yeah, so as you can see, there are only two functionalities that are available. So the first one is the fractionalization, where we provide collection IDs, NFTs, and assets. At the same time, there's an unify, which we will also take a look at. So the most important thing is the fractionalization number in this case. So this is where users can, or the asset originators can say, I would want to split my assets into like hundreds or thousands or a million, like we saw in the slides as well. So in this case, let me go ahead and do 100 fractionalization of this. So let me sign this transaction. Yeah, perfect. So we also see the events where we have Alice has fractionalized this, and there's a balance that was also set, which we saw, and metadata set, like you can see early on when we set it the types, right? So yeah, and just to have a bit more understanding, you can also see in the assets that we were able to mint an asset, which is where Alice is the owner, and then admin, issuer, and she's also the freezer one, where the supply is around 100 fractionalization of Phyken, right? So this is a fair bit of fractionalization. There goes more to it. So I think Frank already spoke clearly on how do we write the contract. That was actually quite interesting for me. So where how can you, once you have these contracts where users can actually trade these or send these assets to one another. So yeah, so now that we know we have fractionalized it, I would also want to show how do we unify it. NFT fractionalize. So like I said, we would want to unify, and then the unify is also being done by Alice. So once we sign and submit this, yep, perfect. So you can see, the whole, basically, I think one of the constraints is when you want to unify all of the fungible tokens from the fungible assets has to be with one person. Only then the owner can actually unify it. So here you can see in the extrinsics where the owner was able to unify it, and the collection is now being burned. We can go and check as well in the assets where you can see there are no fractionals left because now the asset has been unified, and yeah, there's more there's no asset, there's nothing to be on top, right? So yeah, I think that's all I had in a demo, and yeah, please scan the QR, reach out to us, talk to the community. If you find it very interesting, what we are doing, yeah, just talk to me. Remy is also here. We can be helpful in helping you understand more about our thesis. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for a really interesting talk. So do we have any questions?
Yeah, I'll take questions.
Yeah, so maybe I will have one.
Yeah.
So how does the mapping between actual reward assets and the NFT collections and NFT itself in the collection works?
Yeah. So that's a very good question, Peter. So what happens is, imagine you have a solar farm already, right? So what we do is we have escrow where they take verify the asset, or we are building something also called infra, where you can verify these assets, and then they hold your asset within them. And once you have them, we know that this person is holding the asset, and we mint the NFT equivalent. So that's why the third party comes in, where the third party helps us in understanding whether these assets are truly locked in for a specific amount of time or not. So that kind of relates from real world. and on the blockchain world as well.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. So thanks again
Yeah.
for the talk.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Yeah.